Hey friends. Well, I had my first night up here in paradise. It was awfully nice. Tend to sleep pretty well here. And I'm just enjoying one of these beautiful sunrise over the lake mornings. And I, interestingly, had a night where there's some stuff that came up. A few things kind of came up in succession that felt like they informed me. For one thing, I had read a Hafiz poem. I think I'd read it like a day ahead. I think I must have read it yesterday or the day before yesterday, reading one. I've got this daily Hafiz book, and it's a poem for every day, and I read the poem from the day ahead somehow. And it's, oh God, I don't know if I'll even be able to paraphrase it this time. It's a poem about oneness, and he talks about, it's about 4 lines. It's very short. It's a very brief, kind of evocative summary, or it's like a portal into oneness. And he talks about how when we're in from the space of silence, you see how little there is to be done in the world of time. I'll have to get the book and read it to you one of these days. But it struck me because it was just such a perfect little poem, and such perfect timing for me, because it really just gave me a little dose of it. Gave me a little reminder. Oh, this is why we meditate, right? It comes down to reframing what it means to live in the world of time. Masters and spiritual seekers can take meditation to the point where, like, that's the only thing in life, is this communing with oneness, and the whole world of form is almost irrelevant or a distraction. But for those of us who live in both worlds, meditation and immersion in oneness is a way to commune with timelessness, commune with the perfection of stillness and silence, and thereby, and then carry some of that into our day, carry some of that forward into our lives. If you're hearing the monitor over here, it's Annalise greeting her mother. She didn't see Katie last night. They found each other. So that poem, again, I read it last night, and then I realized, oh, I've already read this. I must have read it a day ahead. But then last night, something interesting happened. I'm lying in bed, I went to sleep, slept beautifully for several hours, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was concerned about something. I had an issue that I've been mulling over. Both Katie and I have had this. And I found myself lying there, playing with it in my head, sort of focusing on it, not able to fall back asleep. And I don't usually do that. It's not, that's lying awake and worrying about things is not something that happens to me very often. But in the case of this particular thing, after I spent a minute or two doing this, I suddenly recognized that this form, it's not that the worry and lying awake at night represents progress, but this form of attention on this issue in my life is a form of progress. It's actually really evolutionary for me to have my mind drawn there in a way, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's causing me some distress right now. It actually represents not a good strategy necessarily for solving this issue, but it represents a willingness to open myself to the meaning of this issue in my life and to be available for it, instead of kind of selectively repressing it or selectively, I don't know what the word to use, but avoiding it. And that felt kind of cool to see. And the other thing it did, of course, is immediately alleviate most of the tension around it. I thought, oh, okay, lying in bed at night worrying about something sucks. But lying in bed worrying about this thing represents a kind of new sense of responsibility that's budding in me. That's a step forward that I should celebrate, even as I'm lying in bed worrying about something, not able to sleep. And celebrating it as the growth of an asset within me, as a growth of a form of strength, meant that it was still there, but it dissipated the charge around that thing that can happen. If you've never had this happen, I applaud you, but that thing that can happen when you're concerned about something at night and there's nothing else there's nowhere to go. It's a mental loop, and the loop just kind of accelerates and snowballs, and you get more and more awake and more worried, and then you can't ever fall asleep. I know that again, this is not an issue that I have frequently, but by my description, you may be deducing I've experienced it before. But I didn't do that last night. Acknowledging it and realizing what's really going on sort of allowed me to the kind of, it's like the tape still played, but it was kind of like going like this. The energy was actually going out. The charge was going out of the issue rather than the charge increasing. And that's not a trick that you can perform on just any old thing. You have to find the root of the issue. You have to find the truth in it. The truth for me was this represents a new sense of responsibility about an area of my life that I want to take more responsibility for, and therefore I can celebrate even something as unpleasant as lying in bed at night worrying about it. And once I diffused the charge in that way, once I got to the place where I was like, okay, I think I can live with this because I see it as a value. I also recalled Hafiz's poem, and I recalled how stillness, from a place of real stillness and connection to stillness, we don't have anything to do in the world of time. The world of time obeys the world of stillness. The domain of time and space is subordinate, subsidiary to the domain of oneness. And that is when I fell back asleep. Because when I got there, it was like I was re-anchoring in the place of total confidence, total openness, total faith. Now I'm not even trying to solve the problem. I'm just moving into a domain where the problem is so minuscule that solution, you know, again, now I'm awake again, right? I woke up this morning and I thought, oh, still got to deal with this problem. But from the place of oneness, I don't have to deal with this problem. From the place of oneness, this problem is all part of a universe that is in service of me and in service of everyone on the planet. My job is simply to stay in oneness and allow the universe to unfold. The problem will be solved through that. And that doesn't mean that I won't at some point make a conscious decision to do something that will solve the problem. I probably will do that. And you know, this is where you get into kind of, you don't want to get into spiritual bypass where we can settle into oneness and then sort of like banish the notion of having any temporal responsibilities. But what we can do is dissolve that sense that there's something we need to do that we don't know what it is. That niggling feeling that I'm doing it wrong, or there's got to be a right way that I can figure out. If I could just think about it enough, I could just kind of like devote enough mental energy to it, preferably at night while I'm asleep. Just point the laser beam at this problem and see if I can find the right solution. That is not the way. It does not work. You know, what will work is settling into stillness and acknowledging the level of power that we have, the level of abundance that we have, the level of intelligence and energy and resource availability that we have, which is infinite. And then listening to the universe for the next step, and then taking decisive action when that step emerges. That's how you solve the problem. So yeah, it's kind of a perfect little nighttime lesson. Both my own internal work, and then Hafiz coming in, saving the day with a perfect poem. So, not a bad way to kick off my second day in paradise. My first day waking up in paradise. Yeah. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you soon.